apologies about the black screen right there. I apparently cannot spell to save my life, so that should be fixed, and that will be fixed in the VOD. But it's Parhelion release day, so we're here to talk about the final couple of cards. I'm going to have guests on to talk about the cards and then what they're most excited about for Parhelion, and then kind of. Oh, okay, that's good to know. Thank you. If I can figure out the technical way to do this, I will try and have people do sort of a call-in show so that I can have people come in for 5-ish minutes and talk about what they're really excited about from the set of cards. Hopefully my audio is a bit better, but do let me know. But without further ado, I've got a full packed guest list today, so I'm gonna have them introduce themselves. But I will first introduce. First up, we've got CephalopodWizard. Do you want to say hi and introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, I am CephalopodWizard. You may know me from the rules team if you're in the GLC's Discord. And I've been playing Netrunner since about sometime after Terminal Directive was released.
Very cool. Thrazznos, you're up next on the list.
Hello, I'm Thrazznos. I run a podcast called Retromancer with my buddy Oddball, and we mostly focus on startup, but we're all Netrunner players, so rock on.
Indeed. And we can definitely talk about what these cards are going to do to startup. And last but certainly not least, we have Whiteblade 111. Want to say hi and tell the stream about yourself a little?
Yeah, I'm Whiteblade. Call me Eric. I've been playing Netrunner for a really long time, since original core. I'm pretty competitive focused. I try and play in as many high-level tournaments as I can. And I co-host a podcast with Phil, Zeroth Maxima, the Shadownet.
Very cool. So we've got dueling podcasts on tonight. And for those of you who, well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that JNet's live so that people don't abandon the stream in droves, but JNet is live. So immediately after the stream, I think Andre from the Metropol Grid's going to be doing a live stream, and we'll be following that along and throwing people over to that. But in the meantime, we've got a couple of last cards that slipped through and did not get spoiled during the spoiler season. So I figured let's get some people together. We'll talk about those. So first up, and I should have looked at the pronunciation for this first, but I'm going to go with Nga. It is a 2-cost 1MU program. It has no subtypes, and it says when you install this program, load 3 power counters onto it. When it is empty, trash it. The first time each turn you make a successful run, you may remove 1 hosted power counter to Sabotage 1. This is 2 influence. So initial thoughts on this card?
I like the art a lot. I think that it's hard because it's unique, you know what I mean? Like, you see this card, it has a dream. The dream is you have 3 of these installed, and then you run archives or whatever, and you they Sabotage 3, sick as hell. I think the really powerful thing about this trigger is that it's on success, which means that, like, one of the play patterns you want to do with Essa is like check archives to see what you sabotaged, because like at some point they're just gonna like discard cards from the top of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And now when you like dirty laundry archives or whatever, do you have another sabotage trigger floating? But you're gonna see the card that you actually sabotage, because if they choose like the top card of R&D, it'll happen before you get to access the cards, and then you'll access the cards, and you're effectively seeing an additional card.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that like it encourages the corporation essentially on this sabotage trigger to discard from hand, but discarding from hand against sabotage is actually really bad. I think like, and so yeah, I think it has like a lot of good timing. I think the fact that it's unique makes it tough.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, if you drop 3 of these down, like that's pretty nuts. If you
Yeah,
can
but I
just
want to do nuts things.
you want to value it. You're like, that's why I'm here. I want just find me the combo. I want it to be overpowered, and then it get banned, and we move on.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that with this, it pretty clearly fits into the oops all sabotage deck, because if a shaper pulls out one of these, oh no, you have to discard 3 cards very slowly. But if this comes in on top of a Chastushka, then that is pretty spooky. But I don't know how easy it's going to be to find deck slots.
Yeah, at some point you have to start putting economy cards in your deck, and I haven't yet seen a card, and it looks like we're gonna get one that's like every time you sabotage, gain 2 credits or something like that, which would be pretty nice.
I mean, it's the thing where it's like the third sabotage doesn't. It's not like linear, right? Like it's. I always use it's not exponential either, but it's like it's on a curve instead of like linear. Like the third sabotage is not 2 greater than the first sabotage. It's actually like curved like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that like stacking the sabotage is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I also just like him because he's a spooky red man. Like I don't know anything about the art, but he's just like hanging out. He's ripped as hell. He's got antlers. We love him.
I think. I mean, so you've got Chastushka, which is for sabotage, and it's more expensive, and it's based on that HQ run succeeding. So you're getting a very similar amount of value on total sabotages, uh, on an easier condition as well. Um, so that seems pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is that this, like, if you compare Chastushka, like the guy is easier to get the sabotages out of. It is cheaper and won't sabotage quite as heavily all at once, but definitely can maybe make that work better. I also want to shout out, this is technically charge support, sabotage support, and mark support in a single card, which I think is kind of... I think one of the cool things about these mechanics is they do feel like they fit in Netrunner, and this card kind of shows like this is a Netrunner card, like it's unmistakably a Netrunner card, and it fits with these new keyword mechanics, which I think is a nice little feat.
Yeah.
All
Is
right,
this
should
guy
we...
like sitting on a throne? No, he's wearing a
He's hanging
cloak. And
out.
he's in a hole. He looks like some kind of druidy fellow. I think like I keep trying to come up with it's an acronym is his name, and it's like not gonna access or something. That's the only place my mind keeps going with this card name.
I
Yeah.
do really think it's funny where like half of the art is like cool like boats and stuff, and then the other half is like the same thing with like the Nook. Like half of it's just like, oh yeah, bear god. It's pretty sick.
So, Shishu in the chat was asking, what's the interaction with World Tree? It's not as good as you would like, because if I World Tree to go and grab a Naga for my deck, I've basically already missed the successful run trigger because it wasn't there when installed. And if I have a Naga and it's only got 1 counter left, I either am going to sell it to World Tree or get the last Sabotage, because this trashes itself before World Tree could get a chance to trash it. But you can... because these are both successful run, you could like get 2 sabotages and then sell your Naga away for something else potentially. So
I think one of the issues you're gonna have with this in ESA also is just like you can probably only realistically run 2 copies. Like, are you gonna run this over Botulus? You know what I mean? I just feel like it's tough because you can already like there's just better ways to sabotage, right? Like you can jam out Finality plus ESA and like play Chashushka. And like I feel like that deck has such a massive slots issue where you need so much money to do things that in putting all like some of the sabotage cards have to get cut, right?
yeah, you can't just put literally every sabotage card in a set and be like, yep, that's my deck.
I think I think that there could be an argument for why this card would be a replacement for Chastushka, depending on how what tools you have and how fast the tools you have are to get in, because Justushka needs that successful HQ run. And if you're running like a non-AI breaker suite, so it takes longer to assemble or something like that, or you're not running Botulus for whatever reason,
Yeah.
then it would be more valuable, because you're like, I don't want to draw Tashushka on turn 3 and not be able to play it until turn 5 or turn 6 or whatever.
Yeah,
Sure.
whereas this is usually put down. Also, would you mind getting a little bit closer to your microphone?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
I'm also not talking very loud, so hold on, let me just talk a bit louder.
All right, fantastic. Okay, let's move on to the next card, because we don't need to get. Though honestly, there's also, I think, probably not quite as much to say about this card, but maybe I'm wrong. This is Numb, is a 4-cost 1MU program Icebreaker killer. It says interface 2 credits, break 1 Sentry Subroutine. And oh, by the way, it has a base strength of 8.
Man, they really did drop Blue Man and Red Man in the same set. What a banger.
Well, it breaks sentries really well, so it has to look a little bit criminal.
I feel like this doesn't even break sentries very well.
No, it is for exactly the time when Mimic has betrayed you for the last time.
Is this the highest base strength breaker in the game ever?
No.
Deus
Ex
Ex
is the highest.
Deus Ex is not an icebreaker.
Yeah, it is.
It is an icebreaker. Oh,
Got him.
my own petard.
This is the highest, I think, killer, decoder, or fractor.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Dubious achievement. I think that this card is not very good. Not to be a dagger. I just think that like two
No,
that's
great, actually. Like you don't want it to be super good. You want it to be kind of good.
I feel like it's very hard to I don't know. Like so it's like more efficient on high string stuff, obviously, right? So like the best ISIS is theoretically good against is like Anansi and Surveyor, but like I guess it's a credit. Like you're comparing against an Anarch, you're up against MK Ultra, right? So it's like, is MK Ultra like breaks drafted for 3? This breaks drafted for 4. Against most of the Jinteki stuff, this is Numb's more effective. But this is 2 credits more, and you have to pre-install it, which is a big cost because Anarch just doesn't do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is. I mean, it's like reasonably efficient against something like an Ansel, but it's still like you're not excited to pay 6 to break an Ansel. I think like you'll do it, but you're not going to be thrilled to do it. What other common sentries do we see?
I can say that this evaluation is a little different in startup, where there is no MK Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that has been a big blocker on some of my Anarch builds is I need MU, and I don't want to install Mimic and Leech and maybe something else, especially if I'm trying to actually use the barrier breaker that was in Midnight Sun.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, it's MU efficient.
Yeah, I think it's, if you've got a solid foundational economy, this definitely could have a slot.
Every time I look at the art for Begamot, I'm just like, I can't handle the cat. It's just so funny.
he looks really good.
I'm just like, it's just like it's like the cat's looking at me, and then the flavor text is like, also, I don't know exactly what I want from this cat. It concerns me.
I think it's what he wants from you is what matters.
Sure. I think I mean I like it because it's like Begamot, Numb, and the other program, like it's all funny like that space characters. I like that on Anarch. There's like a lot. There's a lot of edit programs that have like funny net space. I like Blue Man. Blue Man's fun. He's got
Yeah.
antlers too.
So the previous guy had antlers. It kind of makes me feel like Num just like busted through and like took his antlers or killed him or something. But that doesn't make any thematic sense. They're not in opposition.
I want the antler
I
lore.
think Dan D&D DMTB
Ant
was
lore.
making some kind of note about how actually in lore they've got some relationship to each other.
One
and
gets to
they're-
wear the antlers during the day, and the other gets to wear the antlers in the evening.
On Easter weekend.
All right. On that note, maybe we'll keep moving here. We've got Asmund Pudlat. He is a 2-cost resource connection CD subtype. 2 influence, and he says, when you install this resource, search your stack for up to 2 virus or weapon cards with different names. Host those cards face up on this resource. When your turn begins, you may add 1 hosted card to your grip. If there are no more hosted cards, trash this resource.
Wow. Okay.
Can I ask a rules question?
Sure.
Sure.
Can I get 1 virus and 1 weapon, or does it have to be exactly 2 virus cards or 2 weapon cards?
You can get one of each, whatever combination suits you.
Oh, sick.
Or you can get the elusive virus weapon card once that gets printed.
Please no.
Ooh. Wait, what? Wait, what? Is that a thing?
It could
No,
be.
I'm just memeing, but
But poison vial is a counts.
It's a weapon.
It's a weapon. Yeah,
It is a weapon.
poison is a weapon, just like words.
Holy
Holy
Oh
fuck.
man.
In terms of weapons of the set, we've got Poison Vial, we've got Time Bomb. So this is the reason that Time Bomb is not subtype bomb, it's instead subtype weapon. Because now
Why
I guess
can't it be weapon bomb? Weapon dash bomb. Weapon dash bomb.
Bombs are done for, man.
bombs are done for.
That's hard. That's hard. I just don't understand why CD got support, but bomb didn't get support.
CD has functional reference. There's that one card that requires a CD resource.
Oh yeah, there
Oh,
is, isn't there?
It's I'll pull that card up on the left hand side, Jeff. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one knows what the
Fuck me if I know
name
that
is.
name. Hold on. I do know how to get there, I think, but it's gonna take me a second.
Alright.
It's Populist Rally.
No way. Do you know that card?
Yeah, it's Populist Rally. I know the deep lore.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I see. Jack got you there. Okay, okay.
No, I got there myself. I did not want. I did not see it.
All
You
right.
know, from you actually playing this card, presumably.
It's a prison card, so yeah, I'm obligated by law. Wait, this card's so bad. Oh my god, I thought this was a current. This is an event,
Yeah, it's an event.
and
A
it costs
current.
2.
Oh my gosh,
It's
that would be madness.
Well, they printed enhanced login protocols. Like, what's this is corporation? Jesus Christ, this is bad. Well, anyway.
Anyway, the point I was going to make was we have Revolver, Poison Vial, and Time Bomb as inset things you can all grab, plus all of the viruses. So actually, there was no Anarch viruses this set, I think.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I've been trying to make the all mark deck in Sable.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm finding when I evaluate this is I've been trying to go on Revolver to be a little more resilient to the rig shooter that I expect to be coming. And I look at this and I can say, oh, cool, I'll get a Revolver. But whatever that second card is, I'm not sure what I want because I'm trying to fill my MU with Chesfas instead of Leeches would be the next best thing. But
I
I think Chesfa's better than Leech.
I wonder if you could splash for like a 1-of Fermenter, because you can just use it early up until you find your Chesvies, and then it will give you some extra bonus econ potentially.
This is one of those cards that's not good now, but it's going to be absolutely degenerate in 2 years.
Actually, I think I have a good use case. Imp.
Wow, no joke. I already had that typed in so I could pull it up. So
Yeah.
This
is really slow.
It is quite slow. It's play 2 this turn to draw a specific card clicklessly next turn, and then draw another specific card, a different card, the following turn.
Is it that slow? I guess it's just like the problem is that like this is the kind of card that goes in a combo deck. You know what I mean? Like this card, if there's like any like you would pay like okay, I'll go on record. I think in 2 years this card will actually be disgusting because 2 influence for this effect. It not like you're not gonna play this in criminal. Let's just stop. We're not playing this in criminal. It doesn't make any sense. But in Anarch or Shaper, like especially Anarch, this is a way to get like 2 combo pieces. Like tutoring for specific cards is always busted when you're getting specific combo pieces. And so like for example, like this gets you a 1 of God of War if you're going Tagby.
But like,
I'm just saying it does.
Why? But is this better than just playing an extra God of War?
But let's say we're in Criminal or Shaper, where it's we don't want to like Criminal's 3 influence, like God of War's 3 influence, and we get to play Asmund Palat at no influence and like find extra copies.
And I think that. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I think never mind. Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, when I look at this, when we start talking about cards we install that don't directly give us money or break or cause some serious problem for the corp, we look at a 1 install cost and we say, yeah, that seems about right. Anything more, and then we start to think this had better draw me at least 6 cards. And this kind of gets me 2, of which I'm trying to think, what do I really want out of it?
I was gonna say, do we think this is the hottest guy portrayed on a card in this set? He's so attractive. Asmund's so attractive.
He is hot stuff.
He's hot stuff. I just want to install him to look at him.
He's got strong. He's given me strong like Braum from League of Legends energy.
Oh yeah.
You want weapon, my friend?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What does he say?
Never has.
I think there's got to be like a reference now where you get a virus that protects you somehow, and then he can show up and say, "My sword is my shield."
Never has a gun runner looked so cute.
Jeff, you may have forgotten Abassi.
Did I forget Abassi? Abassi?
Abassi's a virus? There's no way.
Well, he forgot about it when we got through the Anarch cards.
I think we were talking about how I think this was a joke about the hottest cards in Netrunner.
Oh, sick. Yeah. Abassi looks like it's like a screenshot from like Doom.
It kind of,
like from
it does.
From 90s Doom.
Doom, the first-person shooter.
Doom, the first-person shooter. Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. Or I couldn't tell if you were talking about David Lynch's Dune, the film.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Something else.
Let's see. All right, should we? I mean, there's. Do I? Nathan, Justin, either of you have any additional thoughts on Asmund before we let Eric go off on another card?
He's okay.
Go off, mate.
No one says anything at the start. I hate the awkward silence. If I don't say anything,
I'll nominate someone next time. Apologies, but I need to get these Slack notifications gone. Apologies for that. But we've got non-equivalent exchange. This is a 2-cost operation transaction. It says gain 5. You may have each player gain 2.
Wow.
So, what are your thoughts, Thrazznos?
This is actually kind of good. I kind of like it, like a lot, actually. I feel like this is going to be, depending on the situation, credits can be a lot more valuable for the corp than for the runner. It kind of depends on both of your builds, but in general, like those 2 credits might get you the ability to res a piece of ice that the runner can't break or something like that. They can have all the money in the world at the beginning of the game, but depending on how you're playing, if they don't have the tools they need to get in, then it doesn't matter. It just gives them the ability to play their own cards. So I think this is a really cool design. It's like 3 credits, uh, but you could also use it as just a minor tempo boost, which is a really fun design.
It does give us the most forbidden economy jump ever, from 2 credits to being just solvent.
I have always wanted to play Medical Research Fundraiser at NBN, and now I'm glad I get the opportunity to do so. I don't think this card's good, dude. I mean, like, I just feel like every NBN strategy is predicated on this idea that there's a credit differential. And I just don't understand what the strategy looks like. Like, 2 credits is a lot of money for nothing. And even in the
For
decks that are
nothing?
like, well, because as the runner, like, right, like the runner had to do nothing, and they get 2 credits.
I see. You're not saying the corp is getting 2 credits with which they can do nothing.
No. The corp can do whatever. Like, let's say it's different between corp pushing and a remote or not. But it's like, the problem is that often, even when like you're being gear checked, it's like you still have to pay for the cards that get past the gear check. So like, I think a lot about this, where it's like, this card pays for the boomerang that they get to install, or it pays for the botulus that they get to install. And did you really come out ahead? Especially because I feel like you'd just rather play Daily Quest. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think what this does for you is you start your turn with 2 credits, and now you could install advance, or no, you'd install playlist advance, and now you have some credits to fire maybe Anoetic Void or something. Something where their credits don't matter a lot, but you being at more than 2 matters. But yeah, if you're playing an honest economy.
Do you think they're playing this over Planogram?
I think I'm looking this as, this is probably my 4th or 5th copy of Planogram.
Yeah, so if you feel like you need a couple of extra econ slots. Yeah, I was like, oh man, I could almost see this in a GameNet deck where it's like, oh yeah, those 2 credits you're giving the runner are just going to come right back to you.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately for GameNet, it's rotating out of startup, and whatchamacallit, Gold Farmer isn't legal in standard, so it's a little bit trickier to figure out exactly, like GameNet hasn't had a home in standard. So I don't know that this card's going to make a difference for that, but definitely an option.
I don't know why you're saying that in a sad tone. Like, Jesus Christ! Thank God.
I'm trying to be sympathetic to this. I'm trying to be sympathetic to the startup players who, as far as I can tell, really love GameNet Prison.
GameNet, yeah, it's true. People love prisons. It's really interesting.
I'm one of those startup players. I hate GameNet Prison.
I feel like Glacier Prison gets like a pass for some reason. And no, it's a game that's not good in standard right now. I mean, you can do this. You can like, it's because Acme's kind of a better home for like all of this weird NBN stuff anyway. You might play this in like, I guess you could play this in like a pure rush deck that's like trying to do like Drago Boo, whatever.
Oh,
or Drago Emperor one.
I mean, basically
like,
any corp deck that's trying to win on tempo, right? As you say, this can help me more than it can help you.
I just feel like there's gonna be a lot of times where you draw like this, like it's good in those like the 3-turn band where like you really need to push, but then as soon as you like are in a spot where you're like playing for value, you're just fucking hooped. Like you're just fucked.
But then you just play for 3 credits, right?
Hey, didn't
my God.
Didn't you famously say that you don't like decks that play for value, or am I is it the opposite?
No. I'm the anti-value.
You're the anti-value. This guy, there you go, man. This is what you wanted. This is it.
Because the like I just if I'm just playing this for 3 credits in like most of my spots, why am I not just playing Planogram?
So you can have 2 extra credits, so you can advance and score an agenda next turn. So you can do anything that requires credits, which basically every single corp win condition relies upon. Without credits, you cannot play the game as the corp.
I mean, you're wrong. That line of argument's very hard to argue against.
Do we want to keep trolling Whiteblade, or do we want to move on to the next card?
I'll throw in one final. I'll throw in one final one. You get to make this just choice at the time that you're playing it, rather than at the time of deck building, like with Medical Fundraiser. It'll be not in every deck, but that's fine.
Can we talk about the flavor, the art on this for a second? I love the art on this card. This card's got banging flavor. This is like classic, like 2015 era NBN. When they were printing cards like Invasion of Privacy or whatever. Like, when was the last time we saw NBN in a toy shop? You know what I mean? Like, this is nostalgia bait, straight up.
That's true, and I do love the like. Oh yeah, well, a small child can definitely sign off on the terms of service that's big enough to take up a large screen. That's definitely an equivalent exchange.
No, it's super sick. It's super sick. This is great flavor text, great artwork. This is like 10 out of 10 in the flavor front.
Yeah, no, it is. I think it's a little shame. I don't think this card's going to see a ton of play, but I think the creative team definitely deserves a shout out for this card that makes what could be like a forgotten economy card, I think, like quite distinct.
What about Building a Better World?
Don't make me look up that deck.
No, I have a theory, which is that Building a Better World is like holding one of like dev team's family members hostage or whatever, because they just keep printing a transaction. Like they print a transaction like every set, and it's never good. But like they just print a transaction every set, and
one just day blockchain.
You're gonna be able to play 20. Like there's gonna be a point where you can play 20 transaction operations. The blockchains are gonna have 10 subs, and then who's gonna be fucking laughing now?
But Eric, this is 2 influence. If it's a hostage negotiation, they would have made it 1 influence.
True.
I do love the shout out that like, oh, maybe an Ampere, you're so desperate for credits, and who knows what your strategy is, so this can just be a decent windmill, throw some money at the runner, and like they'll probably seize it.
I would just like to highlight that playable in Ampere is valid about every corp card. That is just a statement of fact.
It's the new Aesops.
Yeah, it is the new things.
I think this is the final spoiler of Parhelion to go on to daily casts. And this is
Anvil. All right.
This is a fantastic Scott Uminga art to round out the season, and it is Anvil. It is a 4-cost, 3-strength code gate, and it says, when the runner encounters this ice, you may trash one of your other installed cards. If you do, the runner cannot break this ice's printed subroutines for the remainder of this encounter. The 2 subroutines are gain 1 credit, the runner loses 1 credit, and then the runner trashes one of their installed cards. Waiting for the next blow to land is the flavor text. So I'm going to ask maybe Thrazznos, do you want to take an early take on this one?
Yeah. Oh boy. All right. So, okay. First of all, is the art like a wine glass? Because that's all I really see.
It's a hammer.
Yeah.
The art
so
is
it's
a hammer.
So if you look, the red part is the head of the hammer. Then if you go to the right, that's the pointy bit is the anvil. I don't know if you can see my mouse. I'm pretty sure that I know the stream cannot. And then there's like some kind of blade-ish thing kind of going to the bottom right of the frame.
So and is it like driving a nail into the anvil or something?
This is point of view. You are the nail.
You think?
Wow.
Okay.
I don't see this at all.
Yeah, I think like
bring back the blue boy. Bring back the blue man. I want blue man again.
Okay. So I actually I was talking to Oddball about some of these things, and there are
wait,
a lot
hold on. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I rotated it 90 degrees, and suddenly you're a little guy, and this is the big hammer coming to hit you while you're standing on the anvil, and it suddenly makes so much sense.
I see the long stalk underneath the hammer is actually the hammer handle, and it's pointed
Yeah,
orthogonally
yeah.
away from you.
Oh, hold on.
Oh.
Are you telling me that ice art has been sideways this whole time?
it makes so much sense.
Okay, you were saying though.
Oh yeah, so these cards that do like trashing other cards to basically put a face down card into your archives. There's a lot of combos with this set, and I wasn't sure if there were enough of those cards. So great, there's one more. That's probably what we needed.
Yeah, I guess that's
I'd
true.
like to
You
say-
could run this in a sort of Jinteki style decks, Power Up Banana Civic Grid. The obvious card to mention, of course, is Op, where you can maybe generate value out of this trash. I do think it's Chris called out, Siechling called out that the fact that it's the runner trash as one of their installed cards is probably on net pretty means this ice is maybe not the most amazing, but I also don't think that means it's blank at the same time.
My brain is so poisoned by Loki egg infusion that I just saw the text. The runner cannot break his ice printed subroutines, and I was just like, "Is there a way we can abuse this? Is there a way we can loop this?" I think TLDR is one of the. Oh wait, no TLDR doesn't work with this one, does it? Because it's
because it's printed.
Printed is the worst. I hate your team so much, Cephalopod, because printed is the most bullshit word on the rules text because it's like the anti-fun rule.
This is how we prevent more Lokis from happening.
I mean, I'm not complaining about Loki, so that's fair.
All right, but in serious evaluation, I think that what this card is doing is, the subroutine is whatever. What this does is an op. We imagine that there would be all kinds of mid-run skateboard tricks you could do by trashing your own cards. And then for the longest time, we've had just 3 copies of Stavka to trigger stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just not enough. And I think this is the critical mass. Well, maybe not the critical mass, but another 3 cards with which I can pull a mid-run Anoetic Void or something.
Yeah, the card that I was thinking of was Nani Civic Grid in Jinteki. So you basically trash using Stavka or now this card mid-run, and then you flip it face up and resolve the subroutine. So you get a guaranteed resolution.
Yeah, I think one thing that's interesting about this card is it is whenever the runner encounters, which means that if you put this on a central, you've made that central, you've increased the cost of the runner's calculation. Assuming that you have a card that you might want to trash, now the runner has to think, do I want to give Op an extra trigger? Do I want to put another face down card in archives for the nanny grid?
Yeah. Nanny grid. Nanny grid drops unresolvable subroutines in your crib.
Or Nani grid, I guess. But
Nani? Oh Jesus. I think that I kind of agree with you, Jeff, that one of the things that makes this ice really good is the repeatable on encounter ability. I think also it's 4, which matters for the mad combo deck. 4 cost ice is pretty valid in the deck because 4 is the number that allows you 2 to the bass.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna be fine. I mean, I just feel like the existing Wayland ice is actually really solid at what the faction wants to do, that it's hard for new ice to make it in.
Yeah, I think that's the tricky thing to me is in standard, we've got Whoredom, which ends the run and gains a credit if we want that effect. And then we've got Mausolus as if we want to be really taxing, this has 3 subroutines rather than 2 and is a higher base strength.
5. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think also just you have better, you might even rather play something like Afshar or a set. Afshar is Afshar has a really good on-encounter effect for credit cheaper. Sandstone is really taxing. And for credit more, you get envelopment, which is really taxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad everyone's
So that's
having
the set,
fun in chat with Nani.
It's funny because you can say you're already dead and then resolve a subroutine.
I mean, off topic from today. My whole plan with this set is to throw Bathonomus at people.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it's a good plan. It's a good plan.
Yeah. I actually won a couple games with Bathonomus, actually.
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to just move to talking about this as a whole, I do not mind. So
Sure.
let's I guess I might start with Justin. Do you have a thing you're really excited to do and looking forward to?
I have this obsession with restoring humanity, and I think it's just because it says 1 credit per turn, and that is just catnip. And with system gaming, we thought, okay, well, it's not there, but maybe it can work, and not quite. Midnight Sun, we got all this new stuff. We got the Ice to Defend Archives, but yet again, they bamboozled me. It wasn't quite there. But this time for sure, I'm gonna make the successful Restoring Humanity deck.
Oh no.
Double or nothing.
I mean, you're right though. Yeah, no, this set has way more tools to put stuff in art. I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's like there's like the whole theme of Jinteki, this set. Plus Wayland, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh man. So Wayland, now they're printing Wayland cards for factions besides NBN. I'm actually cool with this.
I am really excited to see how the high end, like top end of competitive play and standard changes.
Oh man.
I think I'm gonna talk about standard. Sorry.
No, that's great.
I think R Plus is actually gonna get materially worse. I think there's like Essa and Criminal both got like big, like all the runner decks essentially got more focused, which is gonna make the R Plus worse because I think one of the R Plus is really good at beating sort of like just value decks, but struggles against like decks that have like directed pressure or like really sort of like directed game plans. And it feels like on runner side, like you have tools like Finality and Wake Implant that like you can actually build a directed game plan. I mean, I played some games this morning with Wake Implant. That card's sick as hell. I think it's like it actually just like completely makes Criminal different. Like you don't have to spend influence in Sable on Deep Dive anymore, which I think makes that deck really flexible because you get your influence back to like tech against existing corps. And I think the corp decks also are going to become more focused. Like I think there's a Jinteki like IG49 style deck. I think there's like an Ob combo deck. I think Asa is going to get like really, even like Asa is going to get really good with Gaslight. So I'm just really excited to see what the standard format looks like. And there's going to be the Circuit Breaker tournament in
a month, basically.
In a month, which I think is going to be good. I mean, it's definitely going to be like, it's going to be hype because it's going to be a lot of really good players from across the world trying to like break the format.
Yeah.
And I think that the people who do really well at that tournament will be people who, like, I think there'll be a subset of people who are just like, I don't know what's good. I'm just going to bring like R plus and 4-9. But I think there's going to be a large group of people. The best people who there are going to be people who like really iterate and like come up with like a World Tree Shaper deck or like an Essa deck or like a new Ob deck. I think it's going to be really exciting.
I'm really interested to see what people do with World Tree. But
yeah, World Tree. All right. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts?
No, I was actually. Eric, you go second, but I was gonna ask you Sigurd first.
What am I doing? Like, what to do with World Tree? I mean,
yeah.
I think it's it's really hard for me to see exactly what World Tree is going to be. My initial thought is like there's a bunch of resources that kind of get expended. So like I'm like, oh yeah, I'll start my deck with daily casts. Those can turn into things. I'll start my deck with like some more like techish cards. I can maybe play a Dr. Nuka and like Earth Rises potentially even as well. So like I was sort of thinking about this as like, okay, maybe I could just make World Tree part of a value engine where I just slowly build up this Doom rig, and maybe I like have this end game in mind where it's like, oh shoot, oh no, anyone remember what the leading letters are on Turbine? Like that's the card I'm leading up to. Like I can set up this, like, okay, K2, okay. I appreciate all the work that everyone does at Null Signal Games, but please, can we call it Turbine K2CP so I can remember the name of the card? No, it's fine. Yeah, K2CP Turbine. Like, there's probably some kind of end game rig that you can set up where it's like, oh yeah, all my breakers are base strength 4. You know, I can play with these efficient things all over the place. And just kind of build this just inevitable engine, and maybe I use stuff like Nanook to like kind of bridge out my early game, and even something like a Mayfly is maybe even a slightly better option. Where if there's like a server I have to contest, I can just, let's say I'm Cabanessa Wu in this example, pull out a Mayfly, and then I get my successful run, get to throw that Mayfly away to the World Tree and grab a card I want long term. And just kind of find these like little incremental value interactions to walk my way up to a point where I've got lots of value. I think I'm also really excited to be able to put professional contacts in a deck as a one of and not have it be a meme.
Oh, nice.
So.
Wow, I didn't even think about the Singletons, Highlander sort of case, which we have an ID for.
That's true.
That's a good point.
Jeff, you've reminded me of terrible, terrible schemes from my past. For a long time, I was very obsessed with making a Musashi deck, and I've remembered that Turbine is exactly what that deck wanted.
I am kind of a World Tree hater. I just think like I have a couple problems with the World Tree. So the first is that like I think you can build this like super big value engine. It's unclear to me in terms of like clicks and credits how actually more efficient it is than the existing Aesop's Reaver engine that you can already play in standard.
I mean, it's a worse version of Aesop's, right?
I think in some sense it might be. I think the problem is that like there's going to be a non-zero amount of times where the corp ices like, okay, like let's say like we know the matchup, like we've played the matchup a bunch, right? Like so the corp knows like your World Tree deck. They ice all 3 centrals turn 1, and then like on turn 2 they play a hedge fund and click for credit or something. And I think your deck just gets like a lot worse compared to like Aesop's Reaver, where you don't care. And I think that the World Tree is gonna have like these really like sort of feast or famine games where like they don't ice archives or like they just don't have they don't have the ice, and you just like run them down and it feels really good. And I think as like a 45 card value engine, I think it's going to be a little too slow. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a really interesting deck to whip. I don't think it's going to be very competitive. Now, with the caveat, I think a World Tree deck that might actually be really good is not going to be like a 45 card speed deck, but it's going to be like an 80 card or a 90 card Woo deck.
Oh,
and the idea, and I know like this sounds like an absolute fucking meme, but like basically the idea is that Cabanessa Wu's ID ability is busted, and you tutor for the World Tree deck, and you play like one of like so like you're playing like the best like 50 econ cards, and then you play like 20 cards that are just tech. So you have like your Caldera, you have a Citadel, you have like a card like essentially like a card that's like tech for every matchup, and then you use the World Tree to just like fetch the pieces of tech where it's like, okay, so I'm playing against like PE. I'm gonna World Tree out for Caldera, and I'm just gonna like click for credits and like Caldera out, and like that's gonna be fine. I think there's like a non-zero chance that might be the strongest World Tree deck, because to me it leans into like the most powerful part of World Tree, which is the tutoring, and not the like, and it's sort of like it's less emphasis on the weaker parts. Like Aesop's is better at just like making you money straight up, like in terms of clicks and time spent. And not requiring a successable run, but World Tree is really good at tutoring. Yeah, it's like tutoring a card from your deck, insane ability. Like it's really powerful. It allows you to like completely change how you build your deck. So I think the best Woo deck is going to be actually some like 70 card pile that plays like 15 tech cards. and just plays like 40 econ cards, like 10 breakers, and then like 20 tech cards, and plays like a 70 card Wu deck.
I suspect
That's
that what
actually
you.
that's super good.
Hmm.
Sorry. Go ahead, Cephalopod.
I suspect that. I mean, when I think about World Tree, the main thing that I think is going to be your bottleneck is installing all of the stuff to sell off. So I'm wondering if the Basilar Synth Gland is going to be enough to give you Haley at home.
I think a big part of the World Tree deck construction is going to be World Treeing for cards that draw you cards, so that you can keep the chain going. So like you World Tree an Earthrise, you draw 2 cards, you've now like drawn like a no free lunch, an installable, or like a Harbinger, and now you can like World Tree again and like World Tree the Earthrise for like a daily cast or something, and then you World like the daily cast makes you 6, and you World Tree for something else. I think the biggest limit on World Tree that people are going to find in practice is going to be getting these successful runs. I think they're going to actually be hard. Especially because I think as runner centrals pressure goes up across the board, corps are going to be more incentivized to defend their centrals. And I think one of the play patterns that is really good against the World Tree deck is just put an ice with an ETR sub on every central, and like it's going to be tough for them.
For sure. I mean,
guess. Yeah, unless they pull out Chesba and their breakers, and then it's not a big deal at all.
Yeah, like I think that's probably maybe the fallback. It's like, oh yeah, especially if we're playing Cabanessa Wu, we can run one World Tree, and then it's the question of can we make our deck functional
without the World Tree,
if we get no World Tree triggers, but then is better when we do. And maybe the answer, maybe it's like, oh yeah, if the court can and does consistently ice up all 3 centrals in their scoring remote and just like plays super slow, like, and we can't beat that with a World Tree deck, then yeah, obviously I think the deck goes nowhere. But I feel like if you're like, oh yeah, if the corp's going to spend all of their time and effort to go super, super slow, well then the requirements that my deck be a certain level of good has probably gone way down. Like I suddenly have a lot more turns and clicks to spend doing other things.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Just slows down the corp, makes the game go long, and then you just build your deck to account for long term. And that's pretty classic Shaper, game plan pace.
Yeah, it's a cool card. I mean, it's dope as hell. I think it's one of the most. I think it's one of the most fun cards in the whole set.
Apparently, Dragoonkin talked about, oh yeah, you can use World Tree to trash the bin breakers to find another bin breaker, which I don't know is great, but that's kind of cool.
Well, there's like a lot of play patterns. Wow. Like you can use Wu to tutor for a program, and then like run archives, and then like trash the program to World Tree to like go get a program you actually wanted.
That's really good. You cannot. Also, I just checked the text on this to make sure you can't use Wu to get your World Tree run, trash the World Tree with itself to install another World Tree. But
playtesters aren't completely useless.
Well, you can
just mostly.
I mean, you can still World Tree with Wu run, use it to get a different World Tree.
Yes. If you have a third program to trash,
if you have a third program installed, but the play pattern of Wu for World Tree, trash your World Tree to itself to get another World Tree, I may have seen that one before.
Did you do that? Did you do that, Eric? That was
no. I had it done to me. There's a difference.
You're the guy who's looking to break everything. Come on. This is claim to fame.
Dude, the fucking degen Shaper Lords we have in testing is like they wield an arcane wizardry that I could never deign to access.
Yeah, no. The way playtesting works is like a bunch of us come up going, Shaper's OP, and then Eric is like, okay, I'm gonna play any NBN cards. And we go, oh shit, NBN's OP. And it's like, no, we were just building bad Shaper decks and playing Dirtle Corpse, and so it looked all good.
Yeah, no, it's a super cool card. I just like the set as a whole. I mean, I think also like for me personally, I feel like if you talked to like any non-single game member, they'd be like, "It's a rough pack split," and like anyone, like you go to any tournament and you ask someone like, how do you feel pack split? They'd be like, "Yeah, man, it was rough." And so for me, it's like people would come to me and be like, I don't understand why they printed Essa. Like the Essa deck just doesn't work. And I was like, yeah, because like the other half of the Essa cards are in Parhelion. And I feel like for me personally, like this is one of my favorite sets. Like Borealis and Cycle, it's one of my favorite Netrunner cycles, and it's really satisfying to see it come together. Like I'm really excited to play the Essa deck. Like it's one of my favorite decks. I'm so excited, super excited to play it. You couldn't play it without all the cards, and I just think like Padma makes a ton of sense, right? Because it's like the only thing that was worth charging was the boat in Earthrise Hotel. But so you have Wake Implant and Nuka and your Flux Capacitor. And also like it feels like the set has really now sort of come together and people get to see the whole thing. And I also think that like it's really just like this conception of Netrunner that I love, which is like super busted and twisted and like there's so many sick cards in this set, like the corpse. Like Zato City Grid, I could not have imagined a single game printing like a year and a half ago. But now they're printing cards like Zato City Grid. Zato City Grid is like super busted and just like it's insane that this card text got through. Or like Ob. And I'm really excited to see like what people do with these cards because I just think the corp decks are going to be really fun and interesting and powerful.
Oh.
Yeah, Thrazznos, I want to. We were going to throw you about World Tree, but maybe I'll leave you open it up a bit and say you can talk about World Tree or you can talk about other stuff you're excited about just generally.
Okay, so a couple. It was really interesting actually because you guys mentioned a couple things that I hadn't really considered. Like the Singleton deck makes World Tree a lot better. The first thing that you said, Jeff, about it being like a value engine, I think the card is really designed against. I mean, you do get 3, but like the fact that you have to trash a card and install a card of the same type. I mean, they basically have learned their lesson, and like a lot of cards that run out of value don't stick around because Aesop's existed. And it's like, okay, cool, yeah, let's make everything self-trash when it runs out because otherwise this is just getting silly. And the same rules apply to World Tree. And then the other thing is that like I keep getting in my head that I want to think that it reduces the cost of the thing you install by the cost of the thing you trashed, which is not true. It's just straight up like you trash any card, install another card for 3 less. So getting value out of that differential doesn't really exist in that same way. So I don't really see it as like a value card, but I do see it as like that Highlander Shaper style of thing, which is actually like pretty cool. And then the thing Eric mentioned about running, like getting locked out. Like that's true unless the cards that you're installing are cards that help you get in, and then you don't get locked out. And then it becomes like a losing tempo game for the corp where they have to keep putting additional ice on their centrals or any server at all in order to not creating remote servers. That's really restrictive, and it's going to be maybe challenging to trigger, but like I feel like it gives itself the tools to enable it to get in. And then the question is, okay, fine, so they spend all this time blocking you. What value does that do for you? Well, as a runner, that actually gives you a lot of value because it stalls the game out. And the longer the game goes, it's like it can be advantageous for a runner if you're building your deck for the late game. And I mean, it kind of depends on the meta, but I think it's really cool. It's a really interesting idea. The biggest downside I think is that it's got 2 memory, so and it costs 6. So it's like if you want to use this to go get like your intrusion tools, that's a lot. That's a big burden to get that plus more memory plus your programs plus your console plus all this jazz, and you're losing tempo as you trash cards in order to do it too. So that's a really interesting design. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I'm going to quickly, Justin, or CephalopodWizard, you were explaining in chat an interaction between Zato Grid and Bran, so I might have you very quickly explain to the class, especially for those of us who are listening along at home, rather than watching along at home, I guess.
All right, so the question is, I want to fire Bran's first subroutine. You may install 1 piece of ice from HQ or archives directly inward from this ice, ignoring all costs. I want to throw that at the runner with Bran and do that. Can I? And the tragic answer is no, because when you use Zato's effect, you've now put Bran into archives, and now that Bran's in archives, it does not have a position. And we did not care to make rules that say, oh, it remembers where it was. It's no, the card's in archives now, and it fizzles.
Can I ask I can think of maybe a scenario where this is relevant, but I think it's a bit of a stretch, which is actually, no, there's no, I can't imagine this. Well, okay. I think there is a way to contrive this scenario, but I have a drafter in front of a Zato grid instead, and drafter doesn't specify about behind, like it doesn't say anything about the server. Can I throw drafter to install that same drafter back on the server?
Same drafter. I think you can. I'm not sure what this accomplishes, but yeah, you pay the cost. So drafter goes to archives.
The very fake version I can come up with is the runner has Keiko and 2 credits on a paladin and needs the 1 credit to somehow like break the piece of ice after the drafter, and I have no other installables in archives or something. So I like throw the drafter at them. So it's like it's an if on an if on an if, but that would be kind of the only scenario I could think of where you'd want to do that.
Jeff, we allow some really extreme stretch examples to make it into the Q&A. I think that's too much of a stretch for us.
Yeah.
Well, you would just use it for ob, right? It gives you an ob trigger as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's
true.
More like it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I want to drafter them to trigger ob.
Yeah, to like, and actually you can like then tutor a Malapert data vault or something. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I have to go.
Okay. Thanks for coming by.
I'd like to make 2 quick closing comments.
All right.
First comment. I feel like when you're in the middle of it, it's easy to just be like, oh, like this is something like normal. But like to me, it's like still pretty insane that like Null Signal released a set. Not only did they release a set, they released a set 6 months after the last set, which is I think incredibly cracked. Like that's like a normal release schedule. That's what they said they were gonna do. They didn't have delays. I think it's just like worth celebrating in some sense. It's wild. We just are we're very lucky to have a fan organization that happens to be like for better. Like Null Signal Game's not perfect, but they're basically like one of the best, if not the best, fan organization in the card game scene. And the fact that they are like producing cards at like this high quality that like I look at these cards and I don't see like a difference between them and like cards produced by like a company that was like profit seeking is insane. And I think that's worth celebrating. The second thing is I want to shout out my boy Jeff for fucking running running a talk show, like getting guests, sourcing cards, like every single day for like 10 days in a row. That's insane. It's like very taken for granted that we can all tune in the daily cast every day, but like Jeff has a job that isn't this and has a fiance, or he has a wife now. He's a wife and a job, and like it's pretty insane of him to give up like 2 to 3 hours like every single day. Like I would throw a sub at this man, like sub to his YouTube channel, like give the man some support because this is absolutely a fucking cracked endeavor by him, and we're all so blessed that he runs the show every day. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. That's very kind.
And he's gone.
All right.
It was great.
Yeah. No, I don't know what to say to that, but I totally is worth saying. Like, yeah, huge props to Null Signal Games. Like, doing 2 sets in 6 months is a real accomplishment. Like, it is a ton of work, having seen behind the back door a little bit. Yeah, it's I will certainly. There's lots of reasons to have criticism and stuff, but like I think it's really worth just going like this is a really notable accomplishment. So
I actually feel I don't know if I mentioned this on my own podcast or not, but I actually feel like the cards that Null Signal makes are actually a lot higher quality than the ones produced by Fantasy Flight back in the day. And obviously part of that is we have a huge corpus of knowledge to look back upon, and mistakes that we've, design mistakes that have been made that we know not to make anymore. But it's really exciting to me to just see all the stuff that they make and be like, wow, this is really interesting, and it's also like playable a lot of, like, it feels like it's playable a lot more. There was a point in Netrunner where we had like 6 sets in a row of unplayable cards.
Yeah. It's when you look, it's like Trash or Busto is not a perfect metric of card quality by any means, but like it's surprising how many cards you look at and you go, this was never going to be anything, was it? So
Yeah. Jeez. Oh man, there's so many cards like that. That's okay. I guess cool. You don't realize it until you try to play Netrunner Draft, and then you're like, oh, this card isn't even okay.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Even in this format where there's no X, like this card is still not workable.
I'm thinking like Burke Bugs. Oh man.
Oh man, Burke Bugs gets a special shout out for for having the greatest dissonance between its flavor text and its actual in-game effect.
Oh
yeah,
my
all
gosh.
this old Wayland Ice woodcutter as well.
Oh man.
Tyrant.
I like woodcutter a lot.
So I guess I want to ask the two of you what you're most excited about. I also want to ask if there's anyone in the chat who has a thing they're excited about, and if you post like an interesting-ish thing that you're excited about, I'll probably I'm going to try and do a live call-in. So we'll see how that works, but I want to let my guests give it a shot as well.
Well, I've already listed the one dark obsession, which is trying to do something with restoring humanity.
Yeah.
But I also keep coming up with ideas of, well, if their hand size was a little lower, I could do something like Blood in the Water from firing a Reaper function. And then I think, well, if I'm going to go for low hand size, why don't I just kill them? And it's like the carcinization thing where everything evolves into crabs, and I'm start making a Thule end of the line deck.
I like the reference.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to think about it. It's like every deck that cares about hand size will at some point evolve into a Thule core damage end of the line. I love that as an evolutionary tunnel.
Actually, yeah, not even kidding. That's basically what that's what Oddball and I have been talking about for the last like 3 days. We're like, yeah, how do we get into a Thule end of the line deck? Oh, we'll do Bladder Ward. It'll be great.
But what if you had one credit return from restoring humanity instead?
Oh man, I know, right? It's almost as good. Actually,
yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things that Eric said that also, like, I kind of had the realization for like yesterday, because I was finally taking an opportunity to review kind of all the cards that we had seen so far, and I was like, wow. So like we had this big boat thing, and there are tools here, kind of more tools now to sort of deal with that type of play. And we had the Issa, and she didn't, and they didn't have all their cards. So the split. I was like, wait, did they just like kind of get a bad split on this set? And Oddball was like, yeah, I think so. And I was like, okay, that makes a lot more sense now. Seeing the entirety of the set makes some things make a lot more sense. So so that was kind of funny, because that does kind of take me back to some of the FFG days where probably like the worst times in Netrunner were basically like bad set splits, like where a card was released and there was no way to deal with it, and then that was supposed to come out later, and there was like a production delay. So that happened with Museum, for example. There were some cards that countered the Museum that just got delayed, so we had Museum for like 8 months or something.
Yeah, the classic FFG released hard-hitting news, and then in like pack 1, and then not release Misdirection for like 3 to 4 months as like an intended counterattack, and then I'll discover later, oh, Misdirection's not even close to enough. We gotta keep printing more cards.
Well, and they had On the Lam, right? Wasn't that supposed to counter it?
Was it? Yeah, and that came out in the same pack as Misdirection. Wow.
Oh no! Oh no!
82 and 83, it looks like.
Oh no, that's bad planning.
Oh, 82 and 85. That makes more sense. But yeah. Yeah.
I really like the art on the Lamb too.
Hey,
Yeah,
we were talking about bad FFG ice. Can we pull up Tyrant really quick?
Yeah.
It has exactly one job, and it doesn't do that on the turn where you res it.
That is true. Yeah, it's good for exactly one thing, and it's there.
If they had printed the ability to, I mean, they started messing around with this, putting advancement counters on unres cards arbitrarily, like Dedication Ceremony. If they had printed those effects sooner, do you think a lot of these cards would have been more playable? Well, sufficiently more playable.
I mean, even Tyrant's really hard because Tyrant has the text that can be advanced only while res, so you have to pay the 7 credit ice and then Dedication Ceremony it after the runner's already walked through it for nothing, right?
What you can put counters on it while it's unresed as long as it's like Dedication, right?
Dedication requires a face-up card.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, oh yeah. Sorry. Isn't there like Trick of Light, for example, would do it?
My impression was that maybe it would. My impression was that like Tyrants can only be, well, I guess can only be advanced. It really applies to the basic action. But I think the idea is like
advanced.
Yeah. But I think maybe the theory was that you could shipment from Kaguya while you were scoring an agenda as just part of a scoring pattern. Like, oh, I'm going to score out my Atlas, and while I do it, I'll also advance my Tyrant. Whereas this card would not see play up until the point where people figure out accelerated diagnostics combos.
Yeah. 2 different cards that can be advanced. So Kaguya would not work with Tyrant.
Oh, you're right. It actually wouldn't.
Maybe the idea was that, like, you know, it was one of those things where they made it one way and then they found out it was broken, so then they just altered it a little bit and then it made it unplayable. That happened with a lot of FFG cards, I feel like.
Yeah, I think FFG was quite conservative generally, which is fine, like pretty reasonable. And then sometimes they would miss, and that would be then we'd get stuck with fun cards like Parasite and the Count Siphon. And playtesting is very hard.
Well,
as
actually,
anyone who's lived through the boat meta will tell you.
Yeah, I think the thing is it came back to their resistance to having a ban list. Because they were like, we are refusing to do a ban list, so we can never print anything that will be overpowered, because if we do, we'll be in an intractable position. And so that's why they were so conservative. And if they hadn't had that policy, then they probably would have been a little bit more daring, which they ended up becoming, which was really fun, kind of.
All right, I know I've taken us on a wildly off-topic tangent by mentioning Tyrant, but someone mentioned that they're excited to try new startup with Ashes rotating out, and I am very excited for that as well. I know that, Jeff, you're not super into startup, but I am pretty into startup, and for a long time I've been playing with a friendly agreement not to play certain cards like Rizeki.
Mm-hmm.
But now, where we've been working with the status quo of runners can kind of walk over corpse because they have some really strong economy cards, they're losing some things that you wouldn't even expect would rotate out. Like daily casts is huge, and I think that is itself might be enough to tip the side balance in startup.
Rizeki, Hoshiko. Hoshiko is a big one. Although it's going to be interesting to see what Anarch can do in the meantime. Because the only reason Hoshiko was too good, but then she was kind of necessary for Anarchs to work. And so without her tempo, like, are they going to have sufficient econ? It's going to be really hard to tell.
Yeah,
But I'm happy to
self-modifying
see her go.
code,
Goodbye.
Simulchip are also really big cards to go.
Yes.
Paladin.
Simulchip. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm so excited for Simulchip to go. It's like
Yeah.
sacrilege in the Netrunner community. People are like, but what are you going to do with that clone chip? And I'm like, I'm just tired of it, okay? Like, it's been like 10 years of my life where
Yeah.
this is like the corner of every single deck. And like, I don't know. I'd like to see a world without it. I'm excited.
I'm a touch concerned about startup with Zato Grid just going like, yep, I'm just going to trash all your stuff. So like,
Well,
like,
Nani.
yeah, the Zato and Nani Grid just like being like, yeah, I'll just play a hardcore rig shooter and lock you out, and you don't even have boomerang anymore. Like, your tricks are like inside job, Botulus, and that's kind of, and Bankar, as Doomrat is quick to call out.
Jeez.
No, everyone when we
Yeah.
printed Light the Fire ages ago, everyone thought it was the end of the world. Corps are done for. And then we just stopped playing it entirely, but maybe it's time.
Oh no.
Yeah, maybe just you're. I mean, the biggest sad of the world is you play Light the Fire into a Thule deck, just to try and manage that. But
How Tool wouldn't run Zato, would they? Surely not.
I don't know. Throw a core damage at the runner seems pretty reasonable. H pronounced Dage, saying boat. I mean, yeah, endurance is obviously going to be part of startup. I'm just not convinced that when you don't have absolutely wild economy behind endurance, like, I don't know that's gonna do that much.
Yep. Like, I feel like I felt for a really long time that like Rizeki is really cool, but it's a problem, and I want it to go away. So it's gonna change the game a lot, and it's absolutely gonna change endurance.
Yeah, startup lagging a bit behind the cool kids in standard. They're not really the cool kids; they're just the opinionated kids that are loud, like me.
Wait, because you guys banned it, right?
Yes, it got banned. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Another
Well,
thing
look-
about endurance. Endurance doesn't break, Managarm Skunk works.
That's true.
That's true.
Probably not that much longer, Kat, because actually Andre said he's about to start streaming, or maybe already has started streaming. I am not sure.
Cards are going to rotate. Jeez.
So I don't want to.
Really...
okay. It looks like he went live just now. So this is the last day of daily casts. I'm not going to keep, as much as it's fun to keep having people on, it is, as Eric alluded to, a little bit of work. So I'm going to probably just go back to my regular streaming after this. I might try to sneak in a weekend stream or something here and there when I can. But yeah, if people want to, yeah.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah, do we actually? I guess people are asking. We've talked a lot about runner cards. Are there corp cards you're sad / glad to see leave? And we can use this as a sort of wrap up question.
No.
Okay, I'll go first. I guess just one of the things that I really like about startup, and you said like the cool kids in standard banned Rizeki, and that's true. But like part of the deal with startup was that like, look, a card gets printed and it's a problem. It's going to rotate out eventually. So we have this faster rotation, and it makes solving some of these like Like I haven't really liked Rozeki for a really long time, but I also felt really comfortable knowing that eventually it was going to rotate. And that's fantastic. And that's one of the things I like the most about startup is that we just things are freshening up really, really fast. And that's a lot of fun to me. So I don't have to, when a new card comes out, I don't have to be like, okay, how am I going to deal with this card for the next 5 years? It's only the next like year, basically. Fantastic.
Yeah, that is a really cool feature of startup, and one that I maybe don't give enough credit for. Is it is going to just be constantly, it's going to rotate and be newer, probably from set to set.
Yeah,
Sure.
and that could be bad. That could be. I mean, the downside of it is a smaller set is like theoretically kind of solvable a little bit faster. It's definitely a concern. So you take the good with the bad.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you both so much for coming on. Any shout outs or I don't know, final thoughts on the set?
New comprehensive rules is live. Go read and enjoy.
Fantastic. I know that's a ton of work, so congrats on getting that out, and I'm grateful to get it out on the same day.
Cool.
All right. And Thrazznos, any plugs, shout outs you want to do?
I don't know. Is that hello? I do a podcast called Retromancer, but we haven't published in a while, so it's kind of a bad shout out.
Maybe this will be the peer pressure I need to get you guys to put out an episode so I can enjoy and listen along. But no, it's no worry. I'm trying to actually get the things so that we can get the raid going. And I cannot find where that doc is. Oh no. Okay. I'm going to have to figure out how to do this on Twitch itself. But yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna bail and leave you to awkwardly try to talk and do that at the same time.
Oh, fun. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Get this raid going.
All right. Good luck and
All
good
right.
night.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Bye.
Bye. Oh no, did they like kill raids or something? I'm confused. Oh, okay. Let's try it this way. Oh, did they rename it? Is it host? I don't. Hold on. There used to be a little thing I could do. Where am I? Oh, there it is. It was just in a different place, and so nope. That's not what it is. Okay, yeah. I'll just have to go to the website, I guess. Thank you. So this is, ending with a bang, of course. Just going out. There we are. All right, let's go and send people over to the other Netrunner streamer, who shall not, of course, be named. Looks like he's just getting started, and we can enjoy some JNet. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and hope you had a nice time.